as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are quietly trying to hawk their Montecito home without putting it on the market and going through the embarrassment of having to do that.
Part of the problem, as we all now know for Meghan and Harry, is that their big deal, the 10-year deal of, taking the world by storm.
Montecito does fit that bill. It is private. A lot of billionaires are there. Security is always around. If it's not yours, it's someone else's.
Harry was not going to be sitting on the throne, and Harry, therefore, was not going to have a throne to relinquish for her.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are facing a crushing court bill and vanishing A-list friend.
He spent 4 years calling Britain racist, toxic, and broken, made millions doing it, then packed up and left. Now he wants to come back with bodyguards paid for by the British taxpayer. And the UK public just said 4 words that stopped him cold. Don't come back at all.
I will say that a more relevant headline is that Harry is planning on spending more time in the United Kingdom. And that was in the Telegraph with friends saying that. And JK, I mean, you've heard him as much as I have over the last few years talking about how miserable the United Kingdom.
Let's start with what actually happened, because most people are only getting half the story right now. For years of carefully planned interviews, books, podcasts, music, lawsuits, and strategically placed stories, every single one of them delivering the same message to the world. Britain is broken. Britain is toxic. Britain is a place so damaged and so dangerous that leaving was the only real option for his family.
I never truly felt that this was an area that, they could really make a lot of money on. And that's really what Harry and Meghan need. They need to make a lot of money. Mainly because I would suggest, and this is just my personal take, but she clearly felt there was a lot of money. There is a lot of money in the royal family, but I've often said to you, chums, it's not available to you. You can be surrounded by a lot of money. You can have people assisting you, all sorts of stuff. You live a very nice life if that's the sort of life you want.
He sat on Oprah Winfrey's couch and allowed accusations to land against a royal family that shook that institution to its very foundation. He wrote a book that dismantled his own father, humiliated his own brother, and exposed the most intimate details about the people who raised him from birth. He sold that book for tens of millions of dollars, and every single dollar of that money came directly from the royal name. He was simultaneously taking apart chapter by chapter.
That the Sussex's finances are a black box. And when Paula Frolic asks, so can they actually afford it in this new essay, Coy responds, it's similar to the royal family. We don't really know what income they have. Even the mega deals were guesswork. The Netflix one they used to have and the Spotify deal, all of that was estimations. We don't actually know exactly how much they've made over the years.
They've made over the years. He made formal legal complaints against British press organizations, filed lawsuits in British courts, won some, lost others, gave interview after interview, describing Britain as a place where his family genuinely could not feel safe, where the institution itself was rotten at its very core.
Indication of that is the fact that Harry has taken on all of these legal cases time and time again. That doesn't really indicate that he has any huge concerns over his finances. Still, it is, of course, a massive hit.
Think about that from the simplest possible human perspective. Think about the person sitting at home right now who got up this morning, went to work, paid their bills, and tried to get on with their ordinary, decent life. That person watched Harry fly to California and make millions telling the entire world their country was racist. Music. And that same person is now being told their tax money should pay for his protection when he decides to fly back for a visit. There is no complicated political theory required here. There is no nuanced reading needed. The calculation is brutally simple, and every single person watching can see it without any help.
He's coming home. He's coming home, and it is not the man we want home. Prince Harry now admitting his desire, his plot, his secret ploy, his plan. You can use whatever term you want to overturn the Sandringham summit and reverse Megxit, announcing to the Sunday Times and its royal editor, Roy Anika, that he'll be back.
You said Britain was the problem. You left. You made that decision publicly, loudly, and with enormous financial reward. You wrote the book. You sold the rights. You did the press tour across America talking about how toxic and damaged the place was. And now that California is not working out quite the way you planned, you want the door to open again on your terms with someone else paying for your security.
All of those things have to go back. And as we often been told by Harry, Meghan gave up so much of her career to come and join him. And of course, the advice that he didn't take from William was the fact that we'll make sure this is what she wants. A lot of people misread William in the beginning. And I have to tell you this from an excellent source.
The UK public has long memories. They are not angry anymore because real anger fades over time. What they feel now is something colder and far more permanent than anger. And this week, that feeling produced a comment that nearly 2,000 people agreed with inside the first hour was posted. If Britain is dangerous enough that you need a full security team just to visit your own father, then do not visit at all. Simple, clear, unanswerable.
But it's just a lot of money, and people are not sure where it goes, and there's not a lot of money left over. So where are you spending this money? How is this allowed to happen? Where are the accountants?
But here is what nobody is quite connecting yet. The security issue is actually the smallest and least surprising part of what is collapsing right now. Because behind that one headline is a financial picture so complete in its failure that it explains every single decision Harry is making at this moment. And the numbers that have come out this week are genuinely difficult to believe.
Harry wants to spend more time in the UK for several reasons. The money's run out. No one wants to hire me anymore. Meghan's an absolute bitch at home. Oh, no. No, they're not the reasons. He wants to try and see his father and his wider family more frequently. Interesting, he didn't care about that in the past, did he? And also feels he can more effectively support his UK-based charities and patronages, including the Halo Trust and Scotty's Little Soldiers, with more regular in-person engagements and meetings. That's it? That's all he's got going on?
$466. That is the average daily revenue Cookie Queens generated per theater during its opening week in American cinemas. To understand why that number is catastrophic, music. You need to know that theaters require several thousand per screen every single day just to cover their basic operating costs. Staff and utilities, equipment maintenance, licensing fees. At $466 per screen, there is no gradual phase-out conversation. You pull the film before the next morning, and you replace it with whatever else is available.
He wants more of a foothold here, the source went on. More trips back, less courtroom drama. Interesting. I don't think any of us were forcing him into those legal battles. Do you? Do you think that? And what about the marriage? We just going to accept that he doesn't now want to spend much time with Meghan Markle at all, and everyone's just going to pretend as if that's totally normal? Oh, and by the way, the source adds, and he always loves seeing his family.
And what replaced Cookie Queens in those screens? A 70-minute compilation of internet cat videos. No studio. No marketing campaign. No celebrity name on the poster. No narrative structure beyond one cat video, followed by another cat video. And that cat compilation drew more paying customers to theaters than Meghan's documentary.
Cookie Queens was just going to be such a box office flop. I think Harry and Meghan once again showing that they're really naive when it comes to how the entertainment industry works. Like, we can see how much this movie is taking. It's not a good idea for you to put anything out to the box office. Like, these headlines were almost inevitable given the movie is not particularly good.
Now, here's a detail that tells you everything about how the situation developed in the first place. Meghan spoke publicly about Cookie Queens multiple times in the weeks before it opened. She called it music, heartwarming, inspiring, a beautiful feel-good story about young girls discovering their own confidence and power in the world. She described it with a specific kind of warmth that only sounds genuinely authentic when someone actually believes every word they are saying.
Now, Harry and Meghan's newest film project, Cookie Queens, crumbled at the box office over the weekend. The documentary marked the Sussexes' theatrical feature debut as executive producers. But the film opened at the box office at number 15, which was 5 spots behind Cat Video Fest 2026, a 70-minute theatrical compilation of the internet's best cat videos.
She had never watched the finished film. That became apparent very quickly, because the actual documentary is considerably darker than a feel-good story about cookies and confidence. It is about wealthy children systematically outcompeting children from struggling families in a contest that rewards whoever has the most financially supportive parents. Children crying under pressure they should never have been put under. A system where the money flows upward, while the girls doing all the real work keep roughly $1 per box sold. Reviewers who saw it at Sundance months before its theatrical release used words like uncomfortable and surprisingly bleak. Music, not exactly the words that match Megan's glowing public description.
And we all knew this was going to happen. It's unfortunate because the Cookie Queen's producers let the people who actually made the movie, let Harry and Meghan come in for two reasons. Number one, they thought, well, our small little documentary will get some attention. And it did, because as we all know, Harry and Meghan can get you attention. They just won't get you the right attention. And the only other reason they were brought in as executive producers, which is usually just a money role or a title role, is because the producers thought they could get their movie into Netflix. And Netflix took one look at it and said, no, thank you. You are welcome to shop it elsewhere.
And then someone spent 5 basic minutes researching the Girl Scouts organization itself and found that its national executive leadership earns close to $1 million annually in total compensation. While the girls go door to door in all weather and keep almost nothing from every box they sell, Meghan attached her name, her platform, and her public credibility to this film without watching it, without researching the organization she was publicly promoting, without checking a single publicly available fact about the charity she was endorsing music on behalf of her personal brand.
There's a couple things going on here, Dan. Number one, no, she did not do any research because she doesn't do that. We saw that with Archwell in the fact that she gave over $50,000 of Archwell money to a organization that was headed by an Islamist. And then was like, oops. And once it was made public by yours truly, they yanked the money immediately. But damage was already done. They don't do research. Meghan didn't even watch the movie because it's not that sweet. It's really about rich kids versus poor kids and how these poor children, the poor ones, not the rich ones, are vying to make enough money to go to summer camp. So no, it's actually quite dark.
Now place that failure directly next to everything else falling apart at the same time. The Netflix deal that was supposed to announce them as serious entertainment industry players quietly reduced from its enormous original announcements to something considerably more modest. Spotify ended completely. The Spotify executive's parting description of that professional working relationship became one of the most repeated sentences in entertainment journalism over the past 2 years.
On Sunday, it took $118,454. That slumped on Monday to $40,614, up a little bit on Tuesday to $49,152. But the damning statistic, Paula, is actually it's in a lot of theatres, right? Which means that the average taking per theatre for Cookie Queens is now down to $466.86. Now, you know a lot about the economics of Hollywood, and you also know a lot about the economics of the movie business. No cinema can keep a film playing if they're taking $466.
Hollywood doors stopped opening. Projects stopped moving forward. Calls started going unanswered. Every income stream built in California, hitting a wall at the exact same moment, which is precisely why the London flights keep happening. When every door closes simultaneously, only one door remains, and it has a crown sitting above it.
Meghan's movie was beaten by a cat compilation video.
Oh my God.
It was literally a documentary, I use that very term loosely, about a bunch of internet cat videos just slammed together. And that is, to me, it says it all, really.
The official story of Harry's UK visit was kept deliberately simple. A son visiting his father. Music, private, low-key, a quiet family moment with no public agenda attached. The actual story emerging from sources close to the situation looks considerably different from that description. There were not one but two meetings at two separate locations during that visit. And what has come out of those conversations paints a picture that looks nothing like the understated reunion being carefully managed for the press.
Now suddenly he wants to come back. In the royal family appears to be so much more attractive when Hollywood stops returning his calls.
Completely agree. I completely agree. The hypocrisy is enough to do my head in. I'm sorry you weren't in England. You didn't hear our alerts. That was to tell us not to use barbecues, not that there was a nuclear weapon heading in our direction.
Start with the photographs, because photographs are power in this world, and every single person involved in this story understands that completely. King Charles personally controlled every single image released from that visit. Every frame, every caption, every decision about what the world would see and exactly when they would see it. The photographs that emerged showed the king warmly music, and naturally with his grandchildren. The king together with Camilla, Harry in a separate photograph by himself. Meghan does not appear in a single official image from that palace visit. For someone whose entire public identity is built on visual storytelling, whose entire personal brand is constructed around controlling exactly how the world perceives her at every moment, being completely absent from the official visual record of a palace visit is not a small detail or an oversight. It is a deliberate and very pointed message delivered without a single word needing to be spoken. Now,
if that is truly what he wants, then maybe he should stop suing anyone who dares to disagree with him or hold him and his wife accountable. Maybe he should visit his family without briefing the press on his every move, only to turn around and complain that his privacy has been violated. At this point, I wouldn't believe Harry if he told me the sky was blue.
people familiar with the situation describe her reaction as going considerably beyond mere frustration. But even that is not the real headline from those closed-door meetings. Harry did not fly to London for tea and conversation. He arrived with a very specific agenda, a restored role of some kind, security arrangements underwritten by the Crown, a clear path back toward relevance that does not require competing against cat video compilations for theater screens. What he actually received was a carefully managed visit, photographs that were controlled entirely by someone else, and a departure that left nothing formally resolved in his favor.
Now, this particular thing, as I said, was a visit back by Harry and Meghan, and predominantly I have to say that they stuck to the rules, they behaved, and they did everything they were supposed to do. That's what Meghan has told staff anyway, but as I told you, first and exclusive on our show, she was fizzing by the fact that she didn't get the picture. The picture really now retains in the rights of His Majesty the King, and the picture is of them as, you know, Camilla, the King, and then there's a separate picture of the King with the two children.
For years ago, Harry left Britain convinced that he held all the real leverage. The stories, the narrative, the international platform, the sympathy of audiences worldwide. Today, King Charles is the man deciding which photographs get released. The balance of power in this relationship has reversed completely and quietly. Music. And something was raised inside those private meetings that Harry was entirely unprepared to address. Something personal and uncomfortable. Something involving a name that should have come up in that room a very long time ago.
So it's interesting how those pictures were developed and put together. You get the picture, if you'll pardon the pun, chums. Now, behind the scenes, where it's even more interesting is the fact that there was obviously a discussion, and this is from an excellent source, as you can imagine, not just at one location, but at two locations where they visited. And the idea really was that they were going to discuss exactly the future and where things went and how they could develop certain things. Now, naturally, you would imagine the problem was, well, how do you develop a situation that's been, well, broken?
They arrived this week. The silence that followed was so total, so unanimous, and so precisely timed that it became its own significant story before the week was out. Beyoncé, nothing. Serena Williams, not a single word on any platform. Oprah, completely and conspicuously absent. The Kardashians, silent across everything.
Why is he putting this information into the press? It doesn't make any sense. But if you look at it from the perspective that Meghan and Harry may be in conflict with his decision to go back frequently, or to the fact that he's even putting this out into the press. It could be a way to send a message to his wife that that is what we're getting ready to do. We're getting ready to go back more often because we're going to move back eventually.
The entire Hollywood world that Meghan spent years carefully and strategically cultivating looked at their phones on her birthday and collectively decided this was simply not a moment worth publicly acknowledging. 2 people posted birthday wishes. 2. If you showed those 2 names to most people watching this right now, neither name would be recognized. Music. For someone whose entire identity is constructed around being celebrated and admired by the most famous and powerful people on earth, that silence is not simply painful. It is a public verdict delivered unanimously without a single direct confrontation being necessary.
So it's not just Meghan's Hollywood friends who are gone, right? Beyonce, Serena Williams, even Kris Jenner. But it's the coterie that were super close to her in Montecito, vanishing too, including, believe it or not, the ultimate sycophant Jamie Kern Lima.
But one silence was louder than every other silence combined. Jamie Kern Lima was not just a passing Hollywood acquaintance. She was the closest thing Meghan had to a genuine Montecito friend, someone who believed in her publicly, enthusiastically, and with complete visible commitment. Last year, Jamie posted birthday tributes so warm and so detailed they were almost overwhelming to read. She sat on camera and read Meghan, an emotional poem so effusive and so over the top that people watching from home genuinely felt uncomfortable. The kind of tribute that only comes from someone who believes in you without any reservation whatsoever.
Meghan thought she would have the pull, the name, the title to lure people in because it was something that she's doing. But all it does, it validates her failure. It validates that her name means absolutely nothing. It shows people that you can't rely on her to bring any good to a project. It shows you that anything that she is attached to will fail.
This year from Jamie, total music and complete silence. Every platform, not a single word. But Jamie was not quiet this week. She launched a brand new podcast, and the subject she chose for her very first episode was how to identify a narcissist in your personal life, how to recognize the behavioral patterns early, how to understand what is genuinely being done to you while it is still happening around you, how to protect yourself, how to finally walk away cleanly.
The real slight came not from David Foster, but I think it came from Jamie Kern Lima, her former best friend, who last year was leaving gushing birthday notes and all of this kind of stuff.
Firstly, I need to remind you of how Jamie Kern Lima clearly did know Meghan Markle was a narcissistic case. So this is why I am convinced that Paula Frolic is right on this, because when Jamie Kern Lima hosted that interview, there was lots of weirdness, but perhaps one of the most weird moments was when she sat there reading the most ludicrous.
She did not say Meghan's name once throughout the entire episode. She did not need to say it. The timing, music said it. The subject matter said it. The contrast between an overwhelming public birthday poem 1 year ago and a podcast about narcissistic behavior patterns this year said everything that needed to be communicated loudly and permanently, without a single name being required. Sometimes the most powerful statement arrives without any label attached to it. This week, Jamie Kern Lima proved that beyond any reasonable question.
That weird video we all laughed at, or it was last year. And the problem is this year she didn't put out anything at all, and now has a lovely podcast going on about how to deal with a narcissist.
Who could she be talking about, Paula?
I'm not sure, but I do think it's interesting that the biggest snubs came from the people who were actually quiet. Serena didn't wish her happy birthday. Of course, they're not really talking anymore. Beyonce, she of the text, didn't do anything. The Kardashians, also insanely quiet. The only people who wished her happy birthday were Kelly Zafjan and Tracy Ross.
There's a very specific kind of pain that only arrives from seeing the life you could have had, not imagined, not constructed comfortably in hindsight. The actual life with the actual person playing out in real time across every screen simultaneously. Most people are fortunate enough to never experience that publicly. Harry experienced it this week.
I really do think it points to her friendship or ex-friendship with Meghan. I mean, how could it not? I mean, you're showing signs of not even talking to her anymore. And then we have this as a topic. You know, everything in media with people like this is very intentional, because it's like in the church, you know, you go do something, you sin, and then the preacher goes up there and gives a sermon about your sin, not saying your name, but giving the sermon because he wants you to get the picture of what, you know, he's talking about. So I think it's the same thing here. And I mean, how could it not be?
Chelsea Davy, the woman Harry was with for years before Meghan entered his life, released a video showing an ordinary day. It was not a campaign, not a coordinated brand moment, not timed strategically around anything happening in the news. She simply opened a window and briefly let people see through it. A private island, a jewelry business built with her own hands through years of quiet, consistent work. A small creative team laughing during a photo shoot while the afternoon light was right. Her children arriving home from school and wandering naturally down to the beach. The way children move freely when nobody is positioning them in front of a lens for content purposes. Her husband appeared briefly and naturally in the background, not staged, not performing a role, simply living alongside her as part of an ordinary afternoon that happened to be filmed. No overproduced moments carefully designed to feel spontaneous. No kitchen angles constructed to suggest an aspirational lifestyle. No visible effort hiding underneath a casual surface. No brand strategy, operating just out of frame. Just a woman living her real life and briefly letting people look. And it was everything Harry told the world he was leaving the royal family to find. Music, privacy, a genuinely real family life. Children who could breathe and move naturally without being watched constantly. Something authentic and completely unperformed. Peace that did not need to be announced or packaged or sold to a streaming platform.
She is a cold person that is very dangerous. And I really do mean this, Dan. It will be a very hard price for Harry to pay when they are no longer together, because he is going to be burned to the ground.
And we see it coming. We see it coming. And P. Dinah, you know, the K word comes up a lot, doesn't it? Karma. And, you know, there is a certain karma with the way that Prince Harry allowed his wife to treat others, including his late grandmother and late grandfather.
Chelsea Davy has every single one of those things built without a press release, without a Netflix deal, without sitting on a famous couch and carefully listing the ways she had been failed by the people closest to her. Documents from Harry's own legal proceedings revealed in his own submitted words how deeply the end of that relationship continued to affect him years after it ended. He never completely processed what happened between them. This week, that unfinished chapter reopened on every screen in the world from a private island on music, a perfectly ordinary Tuesday afternoon, without any warning whatsoever. And still with all of that happening at the same moment, the most painful confirmation of the entire week had nothing to do with Chelsea or Jamie or any documentary losing to any cat video.
Chelsea Davy is living the life Harry wanted, living privately on an island. And I want to show it to you, firstly, for a couple of reasons. We didn't ever hear much from Chelsea Davy, so it's really interesting to hear her sort of deep South African Zimbabwean accent and actually just really look at her life and think, wow, thank goodness she didn't settle for Harry, because what she found was actually so much more positive. But this is going to hurt Harry. It really is going to hurt Harry. Watch this.
I'll spend the day with my mum. Well, she wants her doing business from Mauritius. Phil and my mum get up quite early. I normally head out for morning walk. When I get back to the house, me and my sister are heading down for some breakfast before we head off for school.
Today we are shooting the new Pearl collection, so as soon as the kids leave, the crew arrives. And while the models get straight into hair and makeup, we look at the location options. We started with some still life shots, which is exactly when I managed to drop some of the jewelry into the sea.
18%. That is how many British people currently view Meghan positively, the lowest number ever recorded in any survey taken about her. The famous friends went quiet. The deals are gone. The movie lost to cat videos. A grandfather sits alone, having never met his grandchildren. And Harry keeps flying back to London, not because he misses the people there, but because California ran out of options.
This is the life that Prince Harry wanted. It is the life he could have had. P. Dinah.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what I found so fascinating about this, Dan, is she shared this with us, showing only the backs of her children, right? She also showed us her business. And it's exactly how Meghan is trying to do her business, but she does it.
Just 18% of Brits now view the Duchess of Sussex positively, the lowest she has ever registered, while a crushing 61% view her unfavourably.
The UK public did not need a long argument or a complicated explanation. They needed one clear statement. Music. If you need a security team to come back, then simply do not come back. They were not wrong. They were never wrong.